Hey guys, it's your favorite sisters with the Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver podcast. On the show, you'll hear caregivers confessing the good, the bad, and the completely unexpected. You're guaranteed to relate, be inspired, lead with helpful tips and resources, and of course, laugh. Now, let's get to today's confession. Hey, Jay.
Hey, Natalie.
How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm having a great day, but I'm super excited.
Oh my gosh, why?
Because we have someone on today, and I don't really want to confess it, but I'm going to. I'm a stalker of their page and their social media.
That. So do you think there is is there anything like a restraining order on you?
I hope not. We'll ask.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, I'm going to say, I have to acknowledge my voice sounds awful because I'm losing my voice. So this is not a fourth sister. This is just me, Natalie. And so I apologize to everyone. You get my husky Stevie Nicks voice today. You're welcome. JJ, tell us about the amazing Carissa Snyder, because I am so excited. You're right. I'm a fangirl too. And now she's officially a sister.
Yeah, your voice, you must have cough syrup because Charisma Sydnor. You're like,
oh my God.
Yeah, what? Charisma, I'm sorry. Natalie's had a lot of cough syrup. So
that's embarrassing. I have actually had a lot of cough syrup. I'm not going to lie to you.
So I'm going to tell you about Charisma because I'm so excited that she's here today. If you've ever heard of Roll with Cole, you know who Charisma is. If you haven't, go find Roll with Cole. Charisma has lived most of her life in Richmond, Virginia. She is now a California resident. She's always had a heart for the medical field and has a degree in exercise science and was headed for a master's in occupational therapy. But then there was November 2017, and something completely changed her path. Today's episode, I think, is a love story, Nat.
It is a love story.
And a caregiving story.
Yep.
Charisma first crossed paths with her husband, Cole, at Sheltering Arms Rehabilitation Center, where she worked. He was continuing his therapy for a paralyzing injury he sustained when he was just 16. And in November of 2020, they were married. While many people get into caregiving through crisis, Charisma chose a path that will always include caregiving, but the positivity she approaches life with and the couple's goal to raise awareness about accessibility, life in a wheelchair, and relationships as an interabled couple has exploded. They have millions of followers across social media.
Millions.
You are getting the message out, Charisma. We are so excited to have you guys here with us today.
Yay! I'm so excited. Thank you for having me. That bio was amazing. I think you made me sound even cooler than I am. So
you're super cool.
No, we totally believed it.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So I love this. So I've read articles, and again, I laugh and say I'm a stalker, and I don't even remember how you guys came up. And it may have been just because of all the caregiving feeds that I have, and you came up, and I started watching, and there's so much positivity. It's so filled with hope. So tell us, because we're not here to talk about Cole today. We're not talking about him. He may be upset.
Although, Jay, I don't know if you noticed, Cole's kind of hot.
Well,
I get it. Shh. I'm sorry. If you haven't seen Cole, I feel like I need to say, Cole's hot. Go Charisma.
Charisma.
Hey, girl.
They are a beautiful couple.
They are a beautiful couple.
Natalie, you're old enough to be his mother, so stop.
Sorry.
Anyway, so Charisma. So give us a little background, because I love this. I love this story.
Yes. Okay. So background. Do you want me to start with me first, or when I met Cole?
But you were born,
and then forward up.
So before I met Cole, like you mentioned, I was going down an occupational therapy path, and I had studied at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, and I studied exercise science. And Cole actually went to University of Richmond, which is a rival school.
The Spiders and the Rams. I am very familiar with that, being a Virginian.
Yes. So we don't like to talk about his upbringing before he met me.
Get it?
So when Cole was 16, he dove into the James River, and that is how he sustained his spinal cord injury. So he is a C5, C6 quadriplegic. And we met 6 years after his injury.
Mm.
So he was, pretty into his injury. He was used to the life he was living. He had a routine and everything. So then when we met, we started dating right away. I mean, there was no period of like friendship. It was, we met on like, I know dates. It's really strange, but I just remember dates. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure we met the week of November 15th.
Mhm.
And then we went to a gala on November 15th. And then our first date was December 1st. So it was very, very, very fast.
Was there
young
any
love?
Oh, I know that. And I just feel like as a private provider, I'm like, was there any rules about mingling with the patients?
Exactly. So when we started our channel, that was our biggest like concern and comment. They were curious about why I didn't get fired going after.
Yeah, that's mostly me. I'm like, how did that go?
I know. So I worked inpatient. So I was an inpatient rehab tech.
Uh-huh.
And because gyms don't exist for people with disabilities, Cole would go to the hospital and get his workout done.
Okay.
So they had therapists there that could help assist Cole on different equipments and everything. So that's why he would go to that hospital, because they had pretty much an outpatient gym, I guess.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so it was basically just a gym membership.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
Doesn't count.
We're like downplaying it. We're like,
doesn't
count.
count.
You can tell him we said that. He was just at the gym hanging out. I was working.
Yeah.
So I always, and I know people have asked these questions. So this is when you met Cole, when you saw Cole, what did you see? Because so many people have issues when they see someone with a disability or a differing ability. They are blinded by that. So tell me what you saw.
I saw Cole, and it's so hard. I think that I don't know if I want to use the word advantage, but I have been exposed to people with disabilities my entire life.
Okay.
Since I was a little girl, I have a couple of family members on my father's side who are blind and have, cognitive disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a cousin, my first cousin, who was born deaf. And so I have always been exposed to disabilities in general.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started working at Sheltering Arms. So before Cole and I had even met, I worked at Sheltering Arms for a year. And so I was already exposed to seeing people in wheelchairs. It just became what it
normal.
Was. It was normal. Yeah.
You mean it's normal?
It is.
They're just like us. They just have different abilities.
Yes. And so I feel like when I saw Cole, I was already past that point where it's like, oh, he's in a wheelchair. It just didn't matter to me because I just saw him. And I, like you said, Cole's high. So that's what I saw. I saw very high.
We got that out of the way.
I just feel like we should say that.
Yes.
Because it wasn't like, oh, he was so kind. No, he's hot. And then I got to know him.
Yes.
Yes. And I had walked by and he looked at me. We made eye contact and he literally looked at me and was like, hey. And I was like, what? I was so shocked because I was like, is he flirting with me?
Dude, he's got swagger.
Yes. And that's when I knew right there.
Oh man. So you had your date, you went out, and throughout this dating process, you tell me how, because you guys have done some amazing videos that talk about as a caregiver versus a girlfriend versus a wife, there's a difference. You're a caregiver, but you still have those other roles. So tell us, as you guys, how did your caregiving progress? Because you're still the relationship, you're still the girlfriend, you're still the wife, but tell me about that. How did that start?
So it's interesting. Cole refused to let me do any of his care he refused to let me do all of his care for a year. So I didn't learn the ins and outs of his caregiving until we were dating for a little over a year.
Okay.
So the only thing I would ever do was help him transfer on and off the couch and help him use the bathroom sometimes. But that was the extent of it. And I had to like, hey, Cole, like I want to learn. I want to be a part of this because in order for us to have more intimate alone time, I needed to learn a little something because we were unable to just have, we couldn't go on a date for 4 hours because he had to use the bathroom. And at that point, he couldn't do it independently.
Okay.
And I wanted that. I wanted to feel like we could have a normal dating life without having to go back, his mom do as I see, or his mom having to be nearby. I didn't want that. I wanted it to be just us. And so I learned that part of his care maybe 3 weeks in. But after that, I knew nothing. Didn't know his bowel program, didn't know anything else because he did not want that to be a major part of our relationship. He wanted to just date. at the beginning. And I appreciated that, actually. I feel like it allowed us to really focus on us without the caregiving aspect and really grow our relationship and our intimacy, and then introduce that when we were ready.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, gosh, I have like 1,000 questions.
Like, where do I start?
No, yeah, because you're dating, and did you see this as, when did you think, yeah, this is somebody I want to be with, like, the rest of my life?
This is my person. This is my lobster. This
is my lobster. This is like, because seahorses mate for life, by the way. And the male seahorses, get the females. Just so you know.
Have the babies.
And they give birth to the babies.
They have the babies. Watch it. There you go. They have the babies.
Right there. They have the baby, which I personally wish I was a seahorse. And so,
it's an interesting question, because I knew on our first date, which is so wild to say, but I have dated before. I have had a long-term relationship before Cole, and then another short-term relationship before Cole. And when I met Cole, I just knew there's something that, when they say, when you know, I feel like it's so true. And after our first date, I just knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. And so I went home, went to Pinterest and typed in like wheelchair weddings with men in wheelchairs, and found like pictures. And I found people who, have been married, and the man was in a wheelchair, and it just gave me like so much hope, because it is such an unknown. I didn't know what it was like to date someone in a wheelchair, but seeing that just made me so happy. So right away, I knew.
I like representation. You know what? They talk about how representation and seeing yourselves on TV, seeing yourselves in magazines, seeing yourselves on, online, wherever, that normalizes it too. And it's so interesting. I like the fact that, number one, you went to Pinterest. You can promote either of us. We refine Pinterest. And, and so everybody goes to Pinterest. I'm getting ready for my Halloween costumes, but you looked at that and you had representation.
Mm-hmm.
That's important.
It matters.
It's inclusivity is what it is.
Well, and I think that's one of the reasons why the social media platforms are so important. And I know that there was a point, even before you all were married, where you said there are things that people have questions about that maybe you couldn't find the answers to. And you guys decided, okay, well, we're gonna tell some people some stuff because it's not out there. Exactly. What happened there?
Like, why we made that decision to do that?
Yeah.
It's interesting, because before I met Cole, I wasn't a very vulnerable, open person. I was very private, but Cole is very open. And ever since his injury, he made the decision to be an open book for people. And so getting into a relationship with him, I feel like it kind of brought me into that world. I became more open. And so when people started asking questions, I was like, you know what is the harm in sharing those aspects of our life? Because what it's going to do is normalize our relationship, is going to help people realize that people with disabilities are worthy partners. And so I just knew it was an important message, and put those feelings aside and decided that it was important for us to share that with people. Of course, we still have our boundaries. We won't share everything. There's some things people do not need to know.
Right.
Yeah.
And they ask. It's okay. They will ask.
Yeah, they do. But yeah, we just found the importance, because like you said, I didn't have the answer to these questions. I didn't find people talking about these very taboo or sensitive topics. And so I felt like it was kind of my place, in a sense, to share that aspect of my life, in hopes that other people would share too. Because now I feel like I'm seeing it more. People are sharing that side of the relationship and those ins and outs. And it makes me excited, because I'm learning more too, now that I see other people sharing.
Yeah.
I like that. If not me, then who?
Yes.
If not now, then when? And so the fact that you had the courage, you and Cole, because he sounds like he is quite the personality.
Yes.
I'm already going to tell you.
We're all like, he is. I'm not married to him, and I'm like, you got to get more video time, because he is.
Yes.
We talk about, caregiving. JJ said it in kind of your bio. Caregiving starts typically in a crisis. For me, it started in a crisis when Jason was diagnosed with cancer. For our mom, it didn't start in a crisis. It was a slow burn until the giant explosion happened in 2019. And then we just got full on into it. And you went into it knowingly. Would you say that you have the caregiver gene. That is not actually scientific. I have made that up. But I think that we all have, some of us have a caregiver gene, and it could be a long distance caregiver gene. It could be the one-on-one.
Yeah.
What do you think? What was there?
I think that naturally I am a big nurturer.
Okay.
I feel like I have that in me. And that's like, it doesn't matter who it is. If it's someone special in my life, I have that nurturing tendencies, I guess you would say. I remember actually when I was 11, I worked at my church. They had like a different age group daycares, I guess you could call them. While parents were in service, they had places for their children. And I worked with the 1-year-olds. And I remember there was this one baby who had Down syndrome and needed one-on-one like attention. Usually the ratio is 1-4, but this baby needed one-on-one. And I volunteered. I was like, every time this baby's here, I want to be his one-on-one. His name was Matthew. He was the most adorable child, but it just made me, I felt like I needed to be his one-on-one, and I enjoyed it and I loved it. And I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like naturally I just am a nurturer. My biggest dream in life is to be a mom. That's what I want.
Oh,
Everyone's
I love
like,
that.
what do you want to do for your career? I'm like, I mean, everything else is on this. Like, I'll do it, but I really just want to be a mom. And that's always been my dream.
I'm going to tell you, Charisma, if Emily was here, Emily's goal in life was to be a mother. And she was responsible for bearing the children. Honestly, she gave JJ and I a break. And so she has her son, who's 22, and the twins who are 20. And the greatest joy in her life, her biggest accomplishment that she would say is being a mother. And so she would so relate to that.
Yeah.
I love that. So I feel like sometimes when you say that, people are like, okay, but like, what else do you want to do?
Oh, do you want a job? Like, how much money do you want to make?
Yeah. Exactly.
And you're like, and for her, it's for Emily, and we're speaking for her, but she doesn't care about actually how much money she makes. She cares about the relationship with her children. And so
raising good human beings.
And raising good humans.
Yes. That's very important to me too.
Yeah. Okay. So you date, and then you get married. And it's this, of course, it's at the end of COVID. So there's some changes.
Oh yeah, why not have a wedding during a pandemic?
Right? Yeah, honestly, looking back on that, I wouldn't have changed it. I wouldn't have had it any other way, because we had the most intimate, small wedding with the people that mean the most to us, the people that mean the world to us, that support us every single day. Yeah. And it was the most fun wedding. And we were able to do more, put our budget elsewhere with decorations and this and that, because we had less people. So we were feeding less people, and it was just amazing. I wouldn't have had it any other way, but a wedding during a pandemic was quite an adventure, I will say that.
Well, I'll say this. I had because I believe, no offense, Charisma, but I'm all about having a second wedding. And so to someone else, but love my first husband, really sweet, didn't work out. But the second wedding, for my next wedding, I loved having a small, intimate wedding and paying for food for people I actually like, as opposed to having sponsors. Because I saw in the article, you guys had planned on like a 200-person wedding, like everybody and their brother and their cousin and their cousin's cousin and friend. And when you get that big, it starts to become more than what it is.
Yeah, I will say planning a wedding was very challenging. And I got a lot of comments. Not a lot, but I got comments sometimes saying that the wedding is about the wedding guests. And I was like, that is not our wedding.
No.
And that's why I was so excited that we just slimmed it down, because I was truly going to be meeting people for the first time at her wedding. And I did not want that.
Yeah.
Why am I meeting? I'm the bride and I'm meeting people I've never met before at our wedding. And that was just so strange to me.
Yeah.
And so I second that. A small, intimate wedding it just feels so magical. You can talk to everyone. I feel like when you have a big wedding, you don't have time to mingle, and you don't have time to either enjoy it either, because you're spending all your time mingling.
That's true. So what I love, Charisma, is that even during all of this and the wedding, again, y'all go out and look at her pages, go out and look at YouTube. It was beautiful, but there's the care requirements for Cole. There's the care requirements for you personally. I mean, you have to have care as well. You've got to take care of your mental health, But you guys, you put no limitations on yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's nothing there that limits you. So tell me, so where were you living? So because you got married. So at what point did you guys say, because I know you've gone through a remodel and a couple different things. What is the housing situation? Like, when did you finally get to that point where you're like, hey, we're alone?
Yeah, honestly, that's been an interesting journey. So we bought our first house in 2020, actually, also during the pandemic, which was the best time to buy a house because the
Absolutely
rates were so low.
That's right.
So we bought our house in 2020, March of 2020, but it took several months to renovate it. And before we could even move in, we were living with Cole's parents at his house. And so I was living with my future in-laws. We were living in his just one bedroom, and we had the attic access to the attic, but it wasn't a huge space.
Mm-hmm.
And that was challenging. That was very challenging because for a long time, his mom was his caregiver. And so I would live there and she would come in, do his care while I was like sleeping. And it was just a dynamic that was very challenging for me. That was a big reason that I became his full-time caregiver, because I couldn't handle having someone coming into our relationship, coming into our, room, doing his care. It felt awkward to me.
Yeah.
It's more than awkward.
Yeah.
There's someone in our bedroom.
Why is your mom here? And it feels like you're 16 at that moment. Why is your mom in here? And or you feel like, oh, hi, I'm not a, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like you're caught by his mom. Like, you're back in high school again. You're not supposed to be in the bedroom, the door closed.
That's a good point. I never thought about it that way, but it did make me feel like I was back in high school. It made me feel like I was young again, and I didn't have a mature adult relationship. And I think that's why I struggled so much. And so I adore his parents, but we were ready to get out. And so we actually moved into our house while it was still being renovated. We were still getting an addition, and we just decided to sleep on the couch for a week. And then finally one of the bedrooms were done. So we transitioned to a twin bed, and then the other bedroom was done, and we transitioned to a queen bed. And finally our bedroom was done, and we moved into our bedroom. But we were so eager to just be on our own.
Cole is not a small person. I mean, you are kind of smallish. I mean, she's smaller than we are, Jay.
I can tell.
This is
right off the bat.
Like, you're going to watch
petite.
this on YouTube. She is petitish, but Cole is nottish. And so the fact that you slept in a twin, I don't even like sleeping in a queen with my husband. I'm like, I feel like your breath is near me. Could you move that on the other side?
Yes.
Hey ladies, I need to interrupt for just a second to share about the Sisterhood membership. It's basically a sale every day, and the best part, it's free. Here's the details. We're partnering with our friends at Benefit Hub and other care partners to save you money. With over 200,000 participating companies across the U.S. and abroad, you'll find discounts at your favorite local stores, huge savings on vacations, amazing deals on home, auto, and supplemental insurances, and everything in between. Go to confessionsofareluctantcaregiver.com to sign up, and then definitely tell your friends about it. They can join too. Trust me, there's a discount for everyone. And don't forget, it's free. Okay, back to confessing.
So, wait, I have to ask about this. I got to keep going down the path with your mother-in-law.
Yes.
So I can imagine Cole's mother is a mama bear. Like,
yes.
Her son has been injured, and she was probably more than a helicopter, like over the top of him, because she was his primary support. I don't want to assume, but I do assume.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a great assumption. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the mama bear swoops in and has been caring for him, and he lays eyes on this Manono who passes him in the gym. And she's all like, I'm sorry, what are you about? So how was that? Because you're doing a handoff. We've never talked about a handoff from caregiver to caregiver, mother-in-law to daughter-in-law. And can you do it well enough?
It's hard. It is hard. And I struggled. I don't know her perspective because we've never really had a deep conversation together about that. I just know my side of the story.
Right.
But it was very hard for me. Like you said, it felt like I was in high school again. It felt like I just had someone over our relationship. And if Cole and I had an argument, he is the most empathetic person. And if we're fighting, he cannot hide it. Like he just is so sad. And I knew there was a moment 4 months into our relationship where I struggled with a dynamic with his mom. And I had such a hard time because in my previous relationships, parents weren't that involved in our relationship.
Of course not.
And so I struggled so hard, and Cole thought that I was going to walk away. And so he was so emotional one day, and his mom like picked up on it and was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And like was begging to know what was wrong with him. And that was really challenging for me because I need to have a relationship with my partner without feeling like other people are involved in it, no matter who it is.
Yeah.
So it was hard. And then I think I made it a little bit more challenging because I just took over the caregiving without even talking to her. I was just like, we're doing it. And like, we just like one day, there was more to the story. So Cole had an accident.
Tell
He had
us.
a little accident. He got a blister and I did not want her to know. And so Cole and I both were like, let's just keep it a secret. Let's just do the caregiving between the two of us and like slowly wean her off. Because I just didn't want a lesson on how I could have done something better. I couldn't do it. I was 24, 25 years old. I didn't want a lesson on how to care for he was almost my husband at the time. He was my fiance. So that's when we started doing it. And I think that was hard for her because she felt like she was losing her identity. She felt like she was losing her son. And I think there's a better way to manage that. And I don't think I did it the best I could. I mean, in the time, it was the best thing I could do. But if I could do it over again, I would do it a little better.
You know, I think that's so true about the identity part because it's hard. I lost my identity as a wife when Jason got sick and I became a caregiver, and then I fought to get it back. And then I think it's so many caregivers, like I'm living as a caregiver and a wife at the same time. And sometimes I'm doing and I don't cook, so I can't even include that. But I do a lot of other things, right? Because I suck at cooking. And so acknowledge your skills and your deficits. And so, but I think when the dynamic changes, when the relationship changes, I wonder about, and I hear you saying, I should have been more intentional. We should have sat down and said, hey, we're going to start transitioning this. This is the natural time. Did you all have any counseling at all? Like is any time during your relationship, if you don't mind me asking?
Me, Cole and me? Yeah, we did. We had premarital counseling before our wedding for 3 months, which I loved. And a big topic was that relationship and that transition between his mom and me doing his care. And that was a lot of what we focused on because I did struggle a lot with that relationship at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say that because regardless of who you're caring for, when you said I didn't need a lesson, it's funny because we all feel like as a caregiver, when you do something, somebody's always judging. It doesn't matter if it's a mother-in-law or what. Somebody's like, well, you could do it this way and it would be better. And you're like, I don't want to talk to you.
Or see, JJ's nice. I would say, or you can suck it. That's not a dirty word. You can go somewhere else. I don't really care what you think. Look at me smiling through it.
I mean, you move out, you guys are full-time, and I know that. So you have opted. You don't have additional caregivers coming in, but there's a reason why in your house you don't want that. You have chosen to be the caregiver. You guys are each other's caregivers is what I say, because you care for one another. Yeah. But tell me about that, why that's important to you all.
Good question.
I think, like I mentioned earlier, when his parents were, mostly his mom was his caregiver, I always felt like someone was kind of coming in between our relationship. And that's very challenging for me. And so after experiencing that, I just knew that I didn't want that at all, because I felt like, I don't know, being such a young couple, you want all the time that you can get with each other. And because we have our own business and we can control our own schedule, we want to sleep in when we want. We don't want to someone comes over every day at 8:00, and I don't want to get up at 8:00 if I don't have to, or 7:00 if I don't have to. I want to be able to choose my schedule. And because we have that freedom and we're privileged to be able to do that, I just wanted to keep our routine the same.
Yeah.
And also because I, went to OT school, I learned a lot about quality of life, and I learned a lot about how to be more independent. And so when it came to our relationship, I was always encouraging Cole, let's try this. Let's try to be a little bit more independent in this area so that we don't have to hire a caregiver. Because there were a lot of things that Cole didn't do. I think because he was injured so young, there wasn't a lot of pressure to learn these things independently. And so I feel like people who get injured a little later in life, they were already living such an independent life that they want to get right back to that immediately.
Right.
But Cole's in high school. And so I think the mentality was a little bit different. And so we've always worked on his independence. And so right now he does pretty much everything on his own. So hiring a caregiver just doesn't make sense because they would come over for 2 hours every other day. And it just wouldn't be worth their time or our time.
Yeah.
And so I think we just worked on the independence, and that's how we got to this point.
Okay, I'm dying to ask, does he ever tell you, stop treating me like a client?
No, actually.
My husband tells me, like, stop treating me like one of the kids. Like, that's kids, I treat kids. I work with children and at-risk children. He's like, don't talk to me like the staff. So, because I know you push him. Like, I push my husband. Like, I push my husband to do things to promote independence.
Yes.
And so he hasn't ever said to you, charisma, knock it off.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a great question. No, he's never said that to me. And maybe because whenever I present this, I'm always saying, hey, this is becoming difficult for me. I am becoming overwhelmed. I think it would help take some of that pressure off me if you worked on this part of your life and become more independent. And then I'm able to be better in this area as a wife. And so I think that's kind of how I made it work.
Wow.
That's the money. That is the money and charisma. I'm going to tell you, out of almost 100 episodes, not one time have we had somebody say it that succinctly. That is a different way, because I'm going to try it on Jason and I'll text you and let you know if it works.
Because for you that communication, that for me, I'm like, she said, hey, I'm getting a little overwhelmed. You raised your hand with the person you were caring for. And so many times people try to protect everybody and they don't want to. Wow, Natalie, like, I feel like that's the.
Like, we're done.
Yeah. No, I think it's so important. And I always have this phrase that I always say, and it's being a selfish caregiver. You have to think about yourself. You have to put your needs first. Because if you don't, then you can't be the best caregiver that you can be for someone else. If you're not filling your cup, if you're not taking care of yourself, how are you going to be able to be the best version of yourself for someone else? And so I knew that I was hitting a rock. When we moved into our first house, I was like, this is going to be a lot. It's hard for Cole to cook. I'm going to be doing the cooking. It's hard for him to clean. I'm going to be doing the cleaning. So what can he do to help ease my load and to lessen that? And so, that's when he learned to use the bathroom on his own. And he's done it ever since.
Yeah, there's no going back. You're doing it.
Well, because once you're like, oh, you can do this.
Something that I read that I love about, and I think it goes along with what we're talking about here, is that with you guys have your defined responsibilities, but you put off responsibility that maybe Cole never thought about before. And I think maybe his mom took care of it. You guys were talking about when we go out to eat, Cole, you need to make sure that he has a special fork. So you need to have your stuff. I'm not carrying your stuff. Yes. So tell us about that. Like, how do you make, what is he responsible for? I mean, I know he doesn't get your purse, so you got to get your purse.
Yeah. He's responsible for things that everyone else is responsible for. If he needs a fork, he needs a special fork for dinner, he's going to get a special fork. If he needs his, IC bags to use the restroom, he's going to make sure he has them. Yes, I may have to get them from the cabinet for him, but it's his responsibility to remember to get that. And just like me, I'm going to grab my purse. I'm going to grab my ID. He's not thinking about my stuff, and I shouldn't be thinking about his stuff. So it was a big boundary that we had to establish, that you are an independent person. And yes, I'm here to help you when you need things, but remembering to take care of yourself and your body is still important for you to do for yourself. I can't constantly think about that, especially when we had kids. We made sure to set these boundaries before having children, because my attention is going to go somewhere else. And I need to know that Cole's going to be okay if that happens.
That's in any marriage, Natalie, which, I'm kind of finding Charisma is so wise. And she's like 19.
She's
I don't
like
know. She's so
12.
young. But what you're saying there, because sometimes my husband does this to me. Like we'll get downstairs, we're taking his car, mind you, his truck, and he's like, "Did you get the keys?" Like, why would I get the keys? It's not even my car.
Yeah.
So, did you get this?
Jason does it
You're
to
like,
me.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Charisma, I mean, you've got, especially when Cole had his accident, he was 16, he's a boy. I mean, we all know what that means. And
Yeah.
his mother has been taking care of him. And
Yes.
she's, and we know boy brains. And the average brain does not mature until 29. So, and with men, it takes longer, but whatever. And so I think that it was very wise of you and him to choose the path that you've chosen. Like, let's go ahead and start talking about and have the difficult conversations while we're okay. And we don't do it in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
And I don't resent you because I'm assuming, I mean, I'm not trying to bring up, dirt, but I'm assuming not every day is rainbows and unicorns. Are there times that you want to kill Cole?
I think our relationship is just like any relationship.
Oh, good. Because if you
Good.
said that, I'd be like, you're a liar, Charisma. Because I can tell you, I know you want to kill him sometimes. 'Cause that's a normal marriage thing. That's not normal.
Yeah, he's a man. He's a man. That's all I can say. And men have tendencies that no matter if you're disabled or not, they just are there.
Yeah.
Preach, girl. I've got my list. I'm all like Santa Claus with that list of things that piss me off.
Bleep.
I'm sure Jason's list is honestly all the way to China at this point for me, but because I'm so perfect.
But I love the way you said that. It's a normal relationship. You don't allow this is a hard word, but you don't feel sorry for Cole. He's not given any.
You don't give him slack, do you?
No, I think that he is just as like responsible. Like I just don't see him differently. And I think that a lot of people do. And it's interesting because when I see comments on our channel, people are like, I think there was a video we posted recently how I said, I rely on Cole to make certain decisions for himself. Putting on lotion, that's what it was. Cole doesn't put on lotion. And so his knees are so dry and they crack and they get bloody sometimes. And I'm like, you need to put on lotion, Cole. Like, I'm not going to sit here and put lotion on for you because you are capable. And I'm not going to be your mom looking over you, making sure you put lotion on your legs. You're an adult. And someone commented and said, well, Charisma, like you are his wife and his caregiver, like you should be doing that. And I said, no, like, I think that people have this perception that I need to be doing everything at all times for my husband, but I don't think that's true. Like he is fully independent and capable, and he's an adult. Yeah. And I'm going to treat him like my equal, not less than. And by any means, yeah.
I love that.
Well, you didn't sign up to be his mom. Let's just be really clear.
Yeah.
I tell my husband that. I'm like, there's caregiving, and then I sound like your mother. And there's nothing that makes me madder when I feel like his mother, because then I feel like I'm scolding him or I'm telling him what to do. And there's times when I'm like, I should not have to tell you, you're a grown man. Please do not put me in this place because it really makes me upset. It doesn't feel fair.
Yeah, I agree. And I wonder if that's something that just wives in general deal with husbands. I wonder if it's just like kind of a universal topic. But I agree. I think that I don't want to feel like his mother. Like he's my husband. I chose to marry him.
I like him.
I like him. Yes,
exactly. I want to keep liking him.
Free will.
Yeah. So tell me about burnout though, because you mentioned that in one of the videos that you guys do. So tell me about how you handle that, because that's important for all caregivers, because you reach a point and you got to get tired. It's like what you said about moving, or because you do a lot of, if you watch your all's videos, you do transfers, you do everything. So tell me about burnout. What do you do?
Yeah. So when we first moved here from Virginia to California, it was the worst burnout I've ever experienced. We moved here, just the two of us. We had no help. So I was unpacking everything. I was up for like 5 days in a row, almost 14 hours every day, unpacking everything because we couldn't live until I got rid of all the boxes, put everything away. And I had like the worst burnout after that transition. And I just cried and cried and cried And I realized I needed a break. And so thankfully we were in a position where we just stayed in bed. We stayed in bed for like 3 days and we ate in bed. We did everything in bed. And I was like, I need to rest. And in order for me to rest, I need you to be in bed all day with me, because as soon as I have to get you up, it's going to be a lot for me. And he allowed that to happen, which was great because again, we didn't have a caregiver at the time. So that was the only choice that we had. But I've become aware of those symptoms. I've become aware of when I need to take a break.
Yeah.
So having that moment helped me realize what it feels like to get to that point again. And so I just take a moment to tell Cole, hey, I need a break. And Cole is amazing at recognizing that I'm getting overwhelmed and looking at me and saying, Charisma, take the day off, take a break. I see that you're getting overwhelmed. I can handle all of this. I want you to rest. And so I'm very thankful to have him for that, because sometimes you forget, you don't notice that you're getting overwhelmed. You don't notice that things are becoming too much, and having someone who can see those symptoms in you as well and advocate for you is important to have.
Yeah.
Does he ever say it and you're like, no, I'm not?
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Like he'll say, you seem overwhelmed. And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm not. Yeah.
As you slam the counter and the cereal flies out. Dogs are running away. I know you've got dogs. I can tell because I see them a little bit in the background.
You see her keep coming. Yeah.
No, I have a dog too. I mean, clearly, as evidenced by, those are my children. I have giant portraits of dogs.
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, even the dogs are scared. Even the dogs can look at me and be like, you're going to need to settle down.
Yes, you're not happy.
Take a break. So so this is a completely stupid question. So when you laid in bed, did you watch Netflix?
Oh, yes, always. Okay.
I just felt like I just felt like that was important to ask, that would be the burning question for everyone, is like, what did you do? Because and then it was like, what's your favorite series?
Grey's Anatomy.
There you go. Years of TV.
Yes. Never ending.
She's younger than us. We watched it when we had to watch commercials and wait till the next week.
That's so unfortunate.
I know, right? We're like second class. It's terrible. Yeah. We know what it's like, but you could at least, we'd have to run and you'd have to plan your pee breaks between the commercials, and hopefully it was a 60-second. So
Charisma, I know there's a lot of talk around this, and it's a topic that you guys are very open about, and it's about intimacy and being a caregiver, and no details, but we have a lot. You don't have to be, but we have had a guest on, Robert Party, who was fantastic, and his wife had cancer, but he still talked about that a differing ability, a disability, an illness doesn't have to take away your intimacy as when you're in that caregiver moment. Can you tell me how that works for you all, how you continue to have that even when you're a caregiver?
So I find intimacy in caregiving. There's so many moments where Cole he transfers on his own now. But before, when I would help him during a transfer, I would find moments of being intimate there where he would just grab me and we'd just fall down and hug each other. There are just lots of moments to find that while doing care. And I feel like because I'm his caregiver, we are closer and we are more intimate. I just feel like that closeness is more prevalent, I guess is the word, because of the kind of relationship that we've had. Like I mentioned earlier, I had a long-term relationship before Cole, and our intimacy and our vulnerability was never to the level it is with me and Cole. And I appreciate that so much.
Yeah. And
so, we find levels of times to be intimate all the time, especially when doing care. I think we're like any young, couple who just got married a couple of years ago. Like we're still obsessed with each other. We still want to be all over each other, with each other all the time. I think it's the same.
I love that.
But you do have to be more intentional, though. I will say that.
Yeah.
And I've talked to some women who struggle because it takes more time to get into a position where you can be intimate. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, they lose the joy. They lose that.
It's desire.
The desire.
It's hard to feel desirable when you're a caregiver. It's hard to, and I'm going to say this out loud. I don't always feel like being intimate when I have been a caregiver all day. Yeah. And so when if you're as a couple, I think this is so important. And Robert would talk about this too. It's how do we get realigned? Because I think it's very easy to get misaligned and then things get misinterpreted. And I think that's where you have a lot of relationships, you start to drift apart and the role becomes sole caregiver and then care recipient, as opposed to husband and wife. And you happen to care for your spouse. Mm-hmm. I think that's so important because it can really push you apart to the point that you question, is this the right fit for me anymore? Why am I doing this? And it becomes an obligation as opposed to a desire to want. I think that's important for people to realize.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that I've had my moments where I've struggled with that as well. But Cole and I have always found it important to communicate with each other. So if I, was feeling that way, I would express that to him and he would ask me like, okay, how can I help with that feeling? How can I make it easier for you? Because sometimes I struggle because I want Cole to like touch me more, like be like, because it's harder for him to be physically intimate. It's harder for him to do that. But I'm just like, find ways to do that because that does still make me feel good. It still makes me feel desirable when you come up and just like touch me and tell me I look hot or like, and do that.
We're too, women are, I'm sorry, Charisma. I'm sorry. You're hot too. I don't want to tell you that your husband's hot. I just didn't want you to feel like it was a sexual harassment on our podcast. We don't have an HR department. So congratulations. You're hot. And so I will tell you this though. This is so funny. If my husband walks by me and does not at some level touch me, and it should be a questionable touch, I'm a little offended. Like, did something happen? Did I eat too much carbs last night? Am I feeling like I expect at some level a sexual harassment complaint? If you're not slapping me on the butt, I'm going to be offended.
Yes. We still want that.
Yes, I do want that, just not in public. And so it's fine. So that is okay. So I'm sorry, Jay, I don't know if you know this, but there's so much more that I wanted to ask Charisma, but we've really gone down this path and I think we should probably stop.
I know.
And now it's time for sister questions.
Yes.
I have an easy one because I want to make sure everybody knows about you guys and we'll have all your links and everything out, but tell me where we can find you guys and tell me about the videos because I've watched you guys on the beach. I've watched you go through the mountains. Like you guys are doing everything and your message is so positive. So tell me where I can find you and tell me why positivity is so important, Chris.
Good questions.
Yes, great questions. So you can find us on YouTube, Roll with Cole and Charisma. My Instagram is Happily Charisma. Cole's Instagram is roll.with.cole. And then on TikTok, it's Cole and Charisma. Yeah. And we just have a strong message of positivity because we realize that there's so many hard moments in life and choosing to recognize the positives is challenging and it's hard, but that's what we do every day. But that's not to say that we don't have moments where we do sit in, our sadness because it's important to feel those emotions too. Because if you just brush it under the rug, you're never healing. You're never, recognizing those feelings too. But we just love to show the positivity because the world just feels so dark sometimes. And we want to be the light. And so we try to keep our content positive and fun and to show that you can have a great, wonderful life with a disability and your life doesn't have to be over.
You are definitely a light. No. You guys are wonderful.
I love her. Like she's totally our sister.
Yeah, she's totally
even though they live in California, she's really from Virginia. So
yes.
All right, Natalie, get it.
Are you ready for the best one?
Yes.
I have the best question. What is your favorite guilty pleasure?
Ice cream.
What kind of ice cream? Because I don't think you eat it.
Oh, all the time. I eat ice cream.
Don't tell me
all
that.
the time. Yes.
Favorite flavor?
That's tricky. I love it all. But if I had to choose, it's like a child's flavor. It is Cold Stone birthday cake remix. Their signature. Yes. It's so bad. It's so much sugar. But I love it. I have the biggest sweet tooth.
I like it. The fact that
you're
it's the birthday cake with all the
burning the
colorful
calories.
stuff, I love that stuff. So.
Silver lining to caregiving, burning the calories.
Yes.
Thank you, Cole. Cole is working you out, girl.
Charisma, thank you so much for being with us today.
Good.
You have been such a joy.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be a part of the sisterhood now. It was so great to have with y'all. Maybe we have to do like a part 2 because this was just so great.
Oh, I think a part 2 sounds good.
I know. We should go to California, Natalie, and see Sophie.
Yeah, I like that.
I know.
Oh, we should go to California. It's a great idea.
We're doing lives. Now we're
totally doing it live.
We're on the road.
All right, guys, thanks so much. Charisma, thanks so much for joining us today, and send our love to Cole. And because, I think he is such a part of who you are, but you're such a part of who he is. And together you are absolutely unstoppable. And so I love it.
Thank you so much.
I love it. Thanks, everybody. Until we confess again, we'll see you next time.
Well, friends, that's a wrap on this week's confession. Again, thank you so much for listening. But before you go, please take a moment to leave us a review and tell your friends about the Confessions podcast. Don't forget to visit our website to sign up for our newsletter. You'll also find the video recording of all of our episodes on the Confessions website and our YouTube channel. Don't worry, all the details are included in the show notes below. We'll see you next Tuesday when we come together to confess again. Till then, take care of you. Okay, let's talk disclaimers. You may be surprised to find out, but we are not medical professionals and are not providing any medical advice. If you have any medical questions, we recommend that you talk with a medical professional of your choice. As always, my sisters and I at Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver have taken care in selecting the speakers, but the opinions of our speakers are theirs alone. The views and opinions stated in this podcast are solely those of the contributors and not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted, and no part can be reproduced without the express written consent of the Sisterhood of Care, LLC. Thank you for listening to the Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver podcast.